This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're going back to the beautiful world inside of Eastern Europa in the 1920s of Scythe. But this time, we're going to be bringing some huge airships into this. Don't worry, it's not all about combat, it's not changing the game, how combat works in a general sense. But it's going to bring some interesting new mechanisms and another module that will change the way the game's played every time. So let's take a look. Now the Win Gambit comes with these airships, one for each of the 7 factions, which means you can play this with the Invaders from Afar expansion. They stand up on clear bases and they even give you an extra set just in case. So each faction has its airship starting in its base, just like its character. Now in general, these ships, they don't really have anything to do with combat. They're more about moving things around. They do not control any areas that they're in, unless it's controlled, obviously, by something else. But you can fly through different areas. You can fly through opponents' areas without causing combat. It can fly over rivers. It can fly over lakes. It's pretty much free to fly anywhere it can, using the normal movement that we'll get to in just a moment. Now these ships have different sort of ways they work depending on the game. See, there's different tiles for aggressiveness and passiveness. And what happens is each game, one tile of each type is placed next to the encounter deck, and that's the same abilities for everybody's airship in the game. For example, for this passive ability boost, when moving out of your airship's territory or home base, your character and mechs and workers gain +1 range. Now this shows you the range of the airship. Everyone's airship can move 2 anytime they move that airship. And for an aggressive action, Siege Engine, an opponent may not move their character and mechs out of your airship's territory until they pay you $1 per unit moved. And again, there's 8 different tiles in each of these types of aggressive and passive, so that each game is going to feel quite different. Also, the aggressive ability tile is going to tell you what it can transport. So everybody's airship in this game could transport up to 2 workers. Where in a different game, it might be able to transport up to 3 different goods. Now, picking up workers and or resources acts pretty much the same way that how mechs would transport workers before. So before, during, after movement, it's always part of the move action. And if you're moving through, you could say pick up a worker if the game allowed you to do that, if that was part of the tile for that game. Now, workers on an unoccupied territory, they don't own this, they don't control it, and they can't do anything, interact with anything on there. But if this worker was dropped off here, and they can only be dropped off in unoccupied territories, and now that worker's there and they can do normal things just like the base game. And it's okay to have multiple airships on the same territory. And I'll just show you 2 more of the passive and aggressive tiles. For example, negotiate. When your character has an encounter on your airship's territory, you can choose 1 additional option on the encounter card. Pretty cool. Under drill, your airship's territory is a tunnel that only your workers can use. Bounty, this is an aggressive one. Before you engage in combat on your airship's territory, you can pay 1, 2, or 3 resources. Remember, this one could actually transport resources. From your airship, move 1, 2, or 3 of your units from anywhere to here. So you're trading basically resources on the ship to bring units in. Now I said that airships don't do combat, but this is the card that actually allows that. Blitzkrieg allows you, if you're on 2 airships on a specific spot, they can basically have combat. They can spend up to 1 combat card, and any workers on a losing defending airship, they cause popularity loss for the winner, and the losing airship goes back to its base. So they can happen, but it doesn't happen that often. There's also a resolution module in this expansion where instead of just ending the game after 6 stars, it changes the end game condition. For example, the Doomsday Clock. Well, then essentially you keep track and it's just 20 turns long. Or Mission Impossible, where 2 more objective cards are placed next to the Triumph track and people try to finish those objectives and they're able to put stars on them, and those go towards their 6 stars to end the game. Or the Factory Explosion, which once somebody gets 5 or 6 stars, they get $5, and then basically everyone else gets 2 turns, and then the factory explodes, and then all units that are on the factory or in the 6 spaces around it get pushed back to their home. They gain a popularity for each of those units, but that's an interesting way to end the game. Now, there's a total of 8 of these tiles. I've showed you 3. That gives you sort of a flavor, but I want you to be able to see something once you buy the game. And it comes with another achievement sheet, which I loved from the base game. This one, hey, for one of those different resolution tiles that I just showed you that you could play with, the first winner or any player that has over 100 would put their name in there. It has the first winners or players with over 100 and the different months. And you'll be placing the first winners of the different airship tiles, aggressive and passive, and the first winners with the following invaders from afar elements, because it works well with that other expansion. All right, well, there is the Wind Gambit. So what do I like about this? Well, first of all, the airships are awesome. They're pretty huge, even if you play on the big side of the board, which I do because I bought the extra extension there for the baseboard. They're still big. They still take up a lot of space on the board. It's really cool. So I like that the airships basically give this game even more of a table presence than it had before. It had a great table presence to start with, and now it's like, whoa. Look at this thing. People are going to stop by and take a look at it. Now, a lot of people might think that, wow, these big airships are all about combat, but they're really not, which I'm actually happy about because I love the way that Scythe plays just in general, where it's mostly Euro with a little bit of combat. Now, the abilities of these ships are awesome. So you've got those passive abilities and aggressive abilities. I just love how like one of each of those come out. The passive ability is going to tell you whether you're going to be moving, workers or resources that game. And basically, it's going to make every game feel quite different. Like the one that the passive ability that allows the airship to move or to produce one extra where it's at. And it's like, okay, it's almost like kind of like having a moving windmill, which is really cool. You can move it around. You can get extra resources that you really need. All different passive abilities that just change. Every time you play this game, those ships are going to be doing something different. And I really like that about this, the aggressiveness. Hey, you know what? If my airship's in with one of your mechs or characters, you're going to have to pay me $1 every time you want to move one of those out of there. So you can go over there and put them there. Their player's going to maybe try to get to the factory. You don't want them to, you can put your airship there. Hey, they can still get past it, but they're going to give you some money, which essentially points in the end of doing that. Or there is one, I said that they're not about combat, but there is that one aggressive card that is about combat, which really changes things up, and some people might really like to play with that. But overall, like having all these different ones and all the different possible combinations of these makes it that every game even more. Already felt different, the base game, but this is going to make the game feel even different, even more every time you play it, and I think that's an awesome thing. It does give you one more layer of things to think about, and I like that because it doesn't overly complicate the game. It's like, okay, you know how to play Scythe. If you're familiar with the game, let's just add these airships. Here's generally how they move. You go over just the basic rules, and a lot of them you can refer to. Well, they move sort of how the mechs, the mechs move. They can move there. They can move over here. They can carry workers in certain instances and things like that. So it's easy to teach, but yet it just adds another depth of, another layer of depth that I really enjoy. So airships, love them, and everything about them, awesome. Now the resolution module. This, I might even like this more than the airships, and I really like the airships. Because you could easily play a base game with a first-time player of Scythe and just pick one of these. And it won't really change the game for him that much, where it's like, okay, instead of getting 6 stars, this is how the game is going to end. And these are cool because they really change the game up. I mean, you've got where the factory explodes, right? Everyone's usually trying to go into the factory, get the 3 points at the end and control it, but it's like now people are going to want to like run to the factory, get that cool factory card, and then get out. And not just out of the factory, but out of the adjacent ones too, because if you explode yourself, then you're going back to the base and you're not controlling that territory. However, I have seen games where one person was like 1 away from getting to the last step of the track, the popularity track, and they're like, well, I might as well just leave them there. I'll go up 1 and I'll be better in points. So really different ways to do things with that, and all the other ones, whether it's, hey, there's gonna be more goals, more of those secret, those objective cards that you can actually do now. Or maybe, hey, if the first player that gets to the 6 stars, if they don't have the most at that time, well, then we play another turn, just different things changing the game. And I love that because I always liked sort of that race to 6, knowing that it's the person that always gets to 6 isn't always the one that's going to win. And I just love that aspect of the game. But being able to change is that every game sort of, again, gives you another layer, another wrinkle, it just makes the game that if you played it a lot, it just brings freshness into the game, and I love that about it. And I also like that it's compatible with the Invaders from Afar expansion, obviously. You can just play it with that. So any negatives? Not really. I love this expansion. The only possible thing I can think of is with the base box, and you can't fit both. I couldn't figure out a way to fit both expansions with all the miniatures and all the stuff in the base box very well. It kind of like sat up. I could kind of fit it up, but the top of the lid set up high, which again, this is just a minor quibble. Not really much you can do about it, but other than maybe the Legendary box. But other than that, no real negative. This is just an awesome expansion. Makes me love Scythe even more than I did before, and that's the win Gambit.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.